Hello, my name is Judy Yong. Welcome back to my channel. Right now, I'm going to be telling you what, like the title says, what are the commandments of God? And we all know, of course, there's 10 commandments, but there, those are a part of what the commandments are. Commandments of God are. Those aren't the only ones. But I'm going to be explaining or going through the 10 commandments first, and then the rest of, apart from what that is exactly. So, first of all, what is a commandment? Commandment, according to the dictionary, is a command or mandate, a demand or order, something that someone with authority, gives to, their followers or citizens or whatever, right? So in this case, of course, that would be God, you know. And so, what is a command? A command, according to dictionary.com, is a to direct with specific authority or prerogative, order, to require authoritatively or demand, and that's pretty much it. So, in biblical terms, it's the same thing. It's basically whatever God tells you to do or not to do. That is the question, right? No, that's basically what a commandment is in the Bible. And so, like I mentioned, of course, there's the Ten Commandments that were written with the finger of God on Mount Sinai, and He gave these 10 to Moses for the Israelites, and as well, of course, in the beginning in Genesis 2. It doesn't mention it, but God never changes, right? So, in Genesis, He gave it to them verbally, like keeping the Sabbath holy, which I'll be talking about that later, which is number 4. And also, he, again, not I guess, he wrote it for the first time on Mount Sinai for the Israelites, because the Israelites, since they were, of course, as slaves for 400 years, he wanted to remind them of the commandments that he had placed to them or gave them, because, of course, after 400 years, you tend to forget. I mean, if you forget stuff from one day to the next, 400 years, are you going to remember it? No. So he had to rewrite them on tablets, on stone tablets from Mount Sinai, and gave it to Moses to give, or to remind the Israelites about. All right, so let's get to it. So number 1 is, "You shall not have any other gods before me," which is before God, not me. So that means, not only to, not have any gods like they had at that time. If you read through the Old Testament, they had other gods such as like Baal, Ashtoreth, and Molech, I believe, is another one of them. But so many different gods, and so many different religions have different gods, which aren't even real. Gods are false gods, basically, because God is the only true God, the only living God. All the other gods are either made up or have been created by men, inspired, of course, by Satan himself. So, other gods are not only, molten images of steel, gold, and bronze, and stuff like that, but they can also be, or you could also make gods of yourself, gods of a relationship, either a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or your spouse. You could make your spouse your god. by basically putting or making, or having a God is putting something else above God. So, God Jehovah, Elohim, Yeshua. So, it could be a person, it could be a thing, either material or theoretical, I guess. Um, Whatever you place or give time to more is basically a god or an idol, in other words. So, like I said, it could be a person, it could be your work or career or business. It could be sports. It could be, public figure, whether they be religious or political or whatever. It doesn't matter. Anything you place before God um, can be potentially, made into a god. Other than, of course, the things that you actually make, which goes with the next second commandment. Um, so let's get to that. So the second commandment is, you shall not make any graven images or any likeness of anything that is under the sun and the earth, under the sea, um, whatever, or in the sky, as it says in Exodus 24-6. You shall not make anything or any images of anything, um, not even of Jesus Christ himself. So, not having any idols or statues or anything of any kind of material, as it says here, we should not do. Okay? Alright, so number 3. So, number 2, let's go back to number 2. Number 2 is also, of course, going to number 1. It goes with number 1. So, if you create a God in your mind, and then you create something that correlates to number 1, of course, to your God, that's also, breaking one of the commandments as well. Okay, so let's continue. Number 3 is, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. So what does that really mean? Well, I looked up in the dictionary.com, and according to that, the definition first for in vain, it means, to no avail, useless. For example, all our work was in vain. But also, taking the name of someone in vain actually means speaking of it casually or idly of someone. A good example that I like, if you've ever seen Ray Comfort's videos, they're really good. He's a really great at evangelism. And he does interviews on YouTube. I'll probably link his YouTube channel in my description below. But he referred or gave a good example about how to apply this, and he says something like, if you wouldn't use your mother's or father's or a loved one's name in a curse word or as a curse word, then you probably shouldn't God, the Creator. So it's much more worse, to use God's name in vain. And there's a lot of swear words that include the name of God, or using it not only in swear words but also like using it lightly, like that it doesn't matter. And you should always use the name of the Lord as something very hefty, have reverence toward it and respect to His name. All right, so you find that in Exodus 20, verse 7. All right, so let's go to the next one, number 4, the 4th commandment. A lot of people forget this, but it says, remember. Right? Remember to keep the Sabbath day holy. 6 days you shall work, and the 7th day shall be your day of rest holy unto the Lord. So maybe many people have defined that as something totally different from what the Bible actually says, but it mentions it in Genesis 2:1-3. Um, it says something about, well, it's when he actually created the Sabbath. So, after the literal 6 days of creating the whole world and everything in it, the Lord rested on the seventh day, literal seventh day, and he rested from all his work. So for 6 days, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then on the seventh, he declared it blessed and holy day, consecrated for him to not only rest, but also for us to have, or take the time to be in his presence and rest from all our weekly work. You know and so he made the Sabbath for man, or woman, humanity, and not the Sabbath. Not man for the Sabbath. We didn't come after the Sabbath. He made the Sabbath for us, so it's for our benefit and not exactly too much for God, but it is, of course, one of His commandments, and we have to obey. And so the Sabbath day is the seventh day, which is Saturday. It's always been like that. The Jews still keep it and have been keeping it for more than 5,000 years. And so, it's something that has never changed, because God never changed. But I'll get more into that in either this video or another video as well. Okay, so still Saturday. Alright. So, what does it mean to keep it holy, though? I'll make another video about that some other time in the future. Okay, so that's found in Exodus 20:8-11, Genesis 2:1-3, Ezekiel 20:19-20, which says the Sabbath is a sign between me and men. God speaking about him and humanity. So the Sabbath will be a sign between those who are actually loyal to God and those who are not. So if you keep it, the true one, you will be with God. And those who don't, will be against him. Alright, so, and also in Luke 4:16. Alright, next. Number 5, commandment number 5. Honor your father and your mother. So first off, what does it mean to honor? It means to respect, to reverence, to obey, and to live a life of honoring them. Basically living, not really living for them, but honoring them with your life, and respecting them as well. So that's found in Exodus 20 verse 12, Leviticus 19:3, and Matthew 15:4. So this is the first and only commandment that actually comes with a promise. And let me see if I can get it for you really quick now. Okay. Sorry, guys. Exodus 20. So it says, honor thy mother and thy father, or your mother and your father, that thy days, or that your days may be long upon the land which the Lord your God giveth you, or gives you. So do this, so your days may be long, and upon the land that God will be giving us, right? Okay. Alright. So, next one, number 6. You shall not kill or murder. That's found in Exodus 20, verse 13. And you can look them up in Revelation 21:8, Romans 13:9, chapter 12, verse 19, Matthew 5, 21-22, and you can read that on your own in regards to killing. I believe it was either Matthew 5:21 or 2. It said something about it's not only killing someone, but even, Jesus considers killing someone even to be if angry with your sibling or with someone else. So if you're mad or hate someone, that's as bad as killing them, because hating them is an action. So you end up doing things that are hateful, that are hurtful, and therefore physically killing them, either mentally, spiritually, and such and such. And it doesn't necessarily have to be physical death, but it could also be, like I mentioned, it could also be spiritually, mentally, emotionally, kill them that way. So we have to be very careful about, of course, not only killing people, but by accident or on purpose, which is considered murder. But, it's not only law of the government, but it's God's law. And, if you do that, and like I mentioned, to even hate your brother or your sister or your mother or whatever, that, according to God, is also a sin. Alright, so, next one, number 7. You shall not commit adultery. So, first of all, what is adultery? Adultery is having sexual intercourse, basically with someone who is not your spouse. So it doesn't matter if you're single or married, if you're not having, or if you have sexual relationships, whatever kind, that is not your spouse, your covenanted partner, in Christ, your spouse that you're not married to, you are committing basically adultery. And what is adultery? Like I just said, having sexual intercourse with someone other than your spouse. But also, I believe it's in Matthew 5:27-28, is not only doing the act, but also having mental images of someone else. So if you, I believe it's in Matthew 5:27-28, it says if you look upon a woman, or you being a man, or a woman looking at a man in lust, or having sexual thoughts about that person, that is also considered committing adultery, like it says here. So you have to be very careful about where your eyes go, because where your eyes go is also where your imagination starts to run. So be careful what you watch, who you look at, and how you look at them, because looking at someone is not a sin, but how you look at them and what you start imagining in your mind is a sin. So you have to be very careful. It's very hard. It's very prevalent. Has been very prevalent due to internet advances and stuff like that. And of course, the way we dress. So we have to be careful also of how we dress, because how we dress make people, either men or women, think of things that we shouldn't. And that's why it's good, or it's better to wear conservative clothing that don't, um, you know, that don't leave things to the imagination. so, so, do not commit adultery and do not make someone else commit adultery as well. So, alright, number 8. You shall not steal. So that's in Exodus 20, verse 15, Leviticus 19, 13, 1 Corinthians 6:10, Mark 10:19, and there's so many others as well, but I couldn't fit them all in the board. So, I shall not steal. It's basic. It's not that hard to know what stealing is. If it's not yours, do not take it. Saying that you're just gonna borrow it without asking, that's the same thing as stealing. Um, stealing a person's identity, that's stealing. It's not yours. Whatever it may be, it doesn't matter if it's stealing or supportive of stealing. It's stealing, and you're basically, a thief. And so that also includes, getting pirated either movies or songs as well. Downloading songs without paying for anything, unless of course it's free. That it says it's free because it's a free account, and they do things illegally to get that to the internet, then that's stealing or supporting stealing. So you're basically stealing too. So whatever if somebody else is doing or breaking these commandments, you're also supporting, and you're also committing those sins as well. Just FYI. Alright, next one. Number 9. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. So bear false witness is, in other words, lie. If you lie about someone else or lie to someone else about whatever, that is, breaking the 9th commandment. Your neighbor is not only, who's around or who lives next door to you, no. That's whoever is around you, or doesn't really need to be around you, but, another person, basically. So if you lie about someone else or lie to them, that is bearing false witness and breaking the 9th commandment. And that is found in Exodus 20, verse 16, chapter 23, verses 1 and 2, Proverbs 6, 16 to 19, Luke 3, 14, chapter 3, verse 14, and Matthew 19, verse 18. There's many others, but alright, so last one. So it says, you shall not covet. So covet means basically want what is someone else's, which is before you get into the stealing part. So coveting starts in the mind, right? So if your neighbor, let's say, has a new car, and you envy that person because of their new car, and you want that car, and so wanting what they have, is coveting. So you have to be, I believe it said in Hebrews 13:5, I believe. Be content with what you have, and you won't, be covetous of somebody else's things, or, it says in Exodus 20, verse 17, also coveting another person's wife or girlfriend or whatever. So, or anything of what your neighbor has. So, okay, so that was part one. So, these are all the 10 commandments. If you have any questions, please comment them below. or put them in the comment section, and I'll maybe even make another video that's more in depth than this, or to explain something that you're not understanding so far. But before I finish, to share. So, these, apart from these, like I mentioned, there's so many other commandments that God has said, and for example, in Genesis 3:11, right after Adam and Eve had, eaten of the forbidden, eaten the fruit of the forbidden tree, and God is asking them, where are you? They basically fled, and he said, they realized they were naked, and so he told them, who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree of which I commanded you that you should not eat? So this wasn't a commandment, but it was a command or a demand, like I said in the beginning, or order, or some kind of instruction that, God gave Adam and Eve not to do, and yet they did. So they broke a commandment of God. Maybe not a 10th commandment, but, So, like I was saying, it's not only regarding these commandments, but it's whatever basically God tells us to either do or not do. So in this case, he told Adam and Eve not to eat of the forbidden fruit, right? The forbidden tree, of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, right? And so, that being said, in James 2:10 it says, "For whosoever shall keep the whole law, yet offend at one point, he is guilty of all." Basically meaning, if you break one of these commandments, you're already breaking all 10. So, many people keep or don't have any problems keeping all these, but they do have trouble, especially with number 4, which is Saturday. Always has been, and it's, if you look at various languages, the day for Sabbath or Saturday, they all have the same, or look the same, which goes to, show more proof that Saturday is the Sabbath day, and still is, okay? Alright, so, like I said, if you break one of these, you're already breaking all of them. So, Jesus said in John 14:15, "If you love me, keep my commandments." So, it's all these and anything that he ever tells you. So, whatever else in the Bible it says not to do or to do, you must do it. If you love him, of course. And, because we love him, we're going to keep these commandments and whatever he tells us, right? And lastly, if we wouldn't need to keep these, like it says in Revelation 12:17, "And the dragon was wroth with the woman," or the church, "and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ." So, if we didn't need to keep these and they were done away with already, why would the dragon, want to make war with those who keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ? Because we still need to keep it. In end times, people will be lovers of themselves. There will be, for lack of love, there will be lawlessness. And so, if we don't have any law, why would people be considered being lawless? Well, this is why. The devil has deceived people into thinking we do not need to keep these. But God never changes. And so we need to continue keeping these until death, basically. And of course, having a testimony of Jesus Christ, basically, what Jesus Christ has done for your life, and of course, having a relationship with Jesus Christ. So if you love God, if you have a relationship with God, and you love Him, like it says in John 14:15, and so many other verses in the New Testament, you will keep these commandments and whatever He tells you. Because if you're close to Him, you will do as He says. Not only for Him, but for your salvation, and to live a prosperous life, maybe not here, but in heaven. Those who keep the commandments of God and have testimony of Jesus Christ, follow and obey Him and everything, and love Him, are gonna be rewarded. And Satan lost his privilege when he became prideful and everything of being in heaven, and so his mission is for you to not obey God, so that you can lose your salvation and not be with God. And because God is love, and He wants us to be with Him. Jesus in John, I don't remember which verse, He says, I go to prepare a place for you. If it weren't so, I wouldn't be telling you this. And so, please, be mindful of all these commandments to keep them. And if you have, broken any one of these, or disobeyed God in any way, shape, or form, please confess your sin, because He is faithful to forgive all your sins. I mean, Jesus Christ died on the cross so that you can, be able to even go up to heaven and be with Him. But, it is up to us. It is up to you to decide if you want to, keep these or not. If you say, "Oh, these are very hard," I cannot do them. But no, I mean, Jesus gave us an example of how to keep them, and He Himself kept them all. And if we truly believe that, like the verse in, I think it's Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. He will strengthen you and help you to be able to do all these, and whatever else He has told you to do or not to do. So I hope you were blessed. I hope you learned something that you hadn't learned before, or clarified a little bit of your doubts or questions. But if you do have any questions, like I said, please comment them below, and I'll do another video explaining it a little bit further if you want. But if not, and if you haven't liked, subscribed, commented, please do so now. That way you're able to, or many other people are able to see this video and learn more things about the Bible, and be ready for Jesus Christ's return. And so that is it. And yeah, so I'll see you in my next video. God bless.